Hey everybody, welcome to Fantasy R&R. This is your host Ryan.
And I'm Rob.
And this is Fantasy Baseball Week 2 Deep Dive Ads.
This is Fantasy with Rob and Ryan, Fantasy R&R.
After a difficult week in which I had to drop Clark shit, and Rob has had to contend with some difficulties on his team, but also acquired Wander Franco in the process in our Sandlot Keeper League. We are looking at some of the deep dive ads for competitive leagues such as ours, where you can stash some of the youngest players in the game or the guys that are going under the radar at maybe around 10% rostered in most leagues. We're going to start off with Matthew Liberatore on the Cardinals, his starting pitcher. Rob, take this one.
Yeah, this is the the prize pitcher from the Tampa Bay Rays in the Randy Arozarena trade. And it has taken him a couple years, but Matthew Liberatore is looking really, really good. Just got done with his last AAA start, 11 strikeouts. They're saying that this guy finally figured it out. It looks like his velocity is up 2 ticks on his fastball, which of course is humongous, 2 miles per hour that is. So any type of deep dives, starting pitchers getting injured left and right, it seems like they're early going to this year. Go look at Matthew Liberatore. I guarantee you he's sitting there on the waiver wire.
And someone who is a former Royal, Red Sox, Oriole, now Yankee, Franchy Cordero. Is this a year that we can finally see him break out into what he was supposed to be?
You know, probably not. But this is one of those prospects that has always been so tantalizing. Came out of Kansas City, had the power and speed. As we all know, the K is a humongous stadium, not a lot of people hitting home runs. He never got the opportunity, but he's a lefty pull swing hitter, now playing in Yankee Stadium. Homered, I think, 4 of the last now 6, went 0 for 3 today. It's a speculative ad. Again, the power and speed's so tantalizing, it's worth a shot. Any Yankee in that in that stadium, home run with the power potential that Franchy has. The home runs can come. And, you know, in all honesty, a lot of people, I keep reading about it, a lot of people are comparing him to Matt Carpenter of last year, who platooned but still had a very solid season. So just somebody to keep an eye on, Franchy Cordero there in New York.
Someone I'm familiar with, Johan Oviedo, 56 innings pitched last year, got 4 wins, 54 Ks over that span, so almost a 1-to-1 strikeout. Innings pitch ratio, 3.21 ERA, 1.29 WHIP. Right now, putting up about the same numbers 11 innings into the season. We see him a lot in relief situations prior to last year and during last year. Very young guy, probably could be a starter at some point, or I'm sorry, full-time starter at some point here for the Pirates. What are you seeing right now? I'm a little skeptical of this guy.
Yeah, no, he's been starting this year. I mean, just recently, just got done with the White Sox, 6 2/3 innings pitched. He got the win, which is miraculous for Pittsburgh. 5 strikeouts, a 0 ERA, and a .75 WHIP. When he was acquired in the offseason trade deadline of last year, in the Jose Quintana deal, kind of a laugher it sounds like, they said everything that I read is the Pirates had fleeced the St. Louis Cardinals on Oviedo, which is very hard to do. They're very coveted of their prospects, but I know he plays for Pittsburgh. Believe in Johan Oviedo. I got a good feeling about this guy.
All right, so we're going to move on to Brian Bello on the Boston Red Sox here, who is currently on the 15-day injured list, but may be making a return against the Angels. This week when I go into work that game, it looks like he has a decent chance of being there. Somebody who can throw 97-mile-an-hour fastballs. Should we be looking at this guy in deep keeper leagues or all leagues?
I think all leagues. 6 innings pitched, 1 earned, 0 walks. 4 Ks, and as you had aforementioned, the 97 miles per hour he was throwing in his most recent AAA start. We know there's nobody in his way right now. Boston, you know, just looks like a complete mess from top to bottom. Their pitching staff is completely atrocious. Chris Sale, if
everybody
you're
at work
right
tells
now,
me so.
please freaking drop him. That guy is absolutely terrible. Brian Bello, easily in the blink of an eye, could be the ace for the Boston staff, which really isn't saying much, but if you have the opportunity to go get him, go get Brian Bello now before it is too late.
Kyle Bradish, you were telling me about this guy. I looked at some of his highlights on YouTube. That is a nasty slider. Reminds me of the filthy breaking balls that Clark Schmidt threw before he broke my heart this year. Give us the rundown on him, because it's 7% rostered. It's somebody that everybody could go out there and get right now.
Yeah, Kyle Bradish is one of 5, which used to be 6 injured listed starting pitchers before we made our trade, and I sent you Tristan McKenzie. Kyle Bradish had worked on his pitching mechanics during the last year, but mainly in the offseason. Now, last year, halfway through the year, they got rid of his fastball completely. Go figure, a starting pitcher with 0 fastball. It was that bad. I think it ranked in 1.2% of the worst fastballs thrown. I think he topped off at 89 miles per hour. Okay, how crazy is that? Well, as you had said, the slider that he had thrown is 88 miles per hour and is making people look silly. If you have not seen it with your own eyes, folks, telling you right now, go look up Kyle Bradish slider. It is disgusting. Halfway through the season, he started throwing the slider 30% of the time, thus generating a 30% strikeout rate. Folks, that is ginormous. Again, all offseason, retooled everything, goes and pitches his first game, and in I think it was 2/3 of an inning, had 2 strikeouts, gets plunked on the freaking shin with the ball off the bat, and they pull him and they put him on the IL. They say he's perfectly fine. He's supposed to be making, I believe, a minor league start tomorrow, which is Friday. So if he is available on waivers, as he should, I believe it's below 10%.
Yeah, that's like I was saying, 7% there.
7%. Go get him now. Baltimore looks very, very, very good. They're scoring a lot of runs, and their pitchers are going to benefit for it.
Ji-Hwan Bae on the Pirates, somebody that I have added to my teams and have seen at Fenway. This guy in 2019, albeit at minor league single A, he racked up 31 stolen bases in one season. Over the course of his minor league career, over 100 stolen bases. Right now, for the Pirates, he's actually off to more of a power start than he was known to have, with a couple of dingers, and he's batting about 236 right now, but I'm expecting to see a little bit more of an uptick as he gets more comfortable. I think this is somebody that needs to be rostered in most leagues, because right now, I think last I saw it was about 19%. 20% you have to imagine after today with another hit on the record, albeit, a 250 average. We're probably going to see it go up even more because he is only 23. He's got ridiculous speed, so at 19% rostered, you're probably going to want to go out and get him. 3 stolen bags on the season. Josiah Gray on Washington, and we have some starting pitchers to talk about after this as well.
Yeah, Josiah Gray, big piece that came over from the Dodgers in the Max Scherzer and Trey Turner deal. This was the top pitching prospect with the Dodgers. People think about this. I know, again, he's playing with Washington. We kind of have this bad team bias like with the veto. But, quote-unquote, it was been told that he made the right moves in the offseason, and this included hip flexibility, delivery towards the plate, and a new cutter. Josiah Gray, top prospect, has nobody in his way, has made quote-unquote the right moves. Folks, do the math. Go pick up Josiah Gray. It's worth the flyer.
Bryce Elder, a guy I went ahead and picked up in my other league where I was a defending champion at one point. Bryce Elder on the Atlanta Braves. In his last 2 starts looked absolutely amazing. Actually ranked top 50 in most Yahoo baseball formats and overall. 6 innings pitched with a win and 6 Ks, no earned runs. Next game, 6.1 pitch with 7 Ks, no earned runs. Are we looking at a budding star here?
I mean, the one thing I'll never question in fantasy is any pitcher who comes up and dominates. I don't even care if it's 1 game, let alone 2, as we have seen with Bryce Elder. But on the flip side of this is they have one of the best offenses in baseball. So whether or not it's a ride, a wave, or this is a future ace on the Braves staff, only time will tell, but he has looked really, really good within the last 2 games. So I say give Bryce Elder a shot, especially with Max Fried, I believe, still about another few weeks away.
So this one's going to be a little controversial at the moment because I thought this guy was notable as being a former top prospect in the league. It looked like he was getting things together. Victor Robles on Washington, who's eligible at outfield right now. He had a 1, 2, 3, 4 hit streak, multi-hits in some of those games before going 0 for 5 in his last 5 plate appearances. Right now on the season, batting a little under 320 with no home runs, but he's got a couple of stolen bags. Should we keep our eye on this guy, being he's only 11% rostered? plus 9% over the last week.
Yeah, I mean, as you said it again, being a previous top prospect, of course we have to keep our eyes peeled whenever they do decide to do something, as Victor Robles is doing something in the 2023 season. I do believe Michael A. Taylor, who was a previous Washington prospect who played with Kansas City last year. I don't know where he is this year. I think he signed somewhere else. But everybody was picking him up. I believe this potentially could be fool's gold. Who knows? He does have power. He does have speed. He did have the hit tool, supposedly. So those kind of 5 category studs, of course, we want to pay attention to. But I'm more of a let's put Victor Robles on the watch list than I am pick up Victor Robles kind of guy.
Dre Jameson, somebody that I was looking at, hoping that maybe I would be able to throw a trade at this owner for. As a 25-year-old hurler right now, he seems to average about 1K per innings pitched. He was on fire this season to start this season and is currently in the top 50 overall players on the Diamondbacks. What do you make of this at this point?
Yeah, Dre Jameson was somebody we talked about last week. He got thrusted into the starting role again. As we were talking about, we did believe that Madison Bumgarner and a couple other guys really were just kind of band-aids holding together that starting pitching staff. And Dre Jameson came in against Milwaukee, threw 54 pitches, 4 innings pitched, 4 Ks, 0 ERA, a .75 whip, but most importantly, 0 walks from Dre Jameson. He is known for his walks, kind of an erratic pitcher, but looks good. Looks really, really good. If you didn't see his outing, I strongly recommend going and looking up the highlights, because this guy could be starting for Arizona throughout the rest of the year. And again, Arizona, as we talked about, if it was not last week, it was like, week 0 or whatever you want to call it. I'm calling Arizona as a very deep sleeper. Right now, it looks kind of funny. They are in lead of the division. They just got done sweeping the Dodgers the first time they've done that in a long time. Arizona players, you're going to want to own. You're going to want to own them, especially Dre Jameson.
Josh Lowe on Tampa Bay. There's a lot of Lows in the league right now. I scooped this guy up in the Sandlot. He's eligible at outfield right now after today, batting about 344. Did have a shaky day, got a walk, missed 3 at-bats, did get a run for the Rays, who've been absolutely on fire, talking about one of the best teams in baseball lately, which is interesting to see. Speaking of which, Yandy Diaz, another dinger today. 10% rostered, so it's somebody who's very young, again, I think 25 years old. You could go out and get this guy on the waivers, and he's starting to get increased playing time. I think even when Siri comes back, this guy could possibly be battling him for some playing time. So it wouldn't hurt you to roster both at the same time. As Rob says, get a piece of this Tampa Bay offense while you can anyway. So you might want to have some of these guys, if you're going to be like using bench spots on dudes you're not even going to start anyway. Moving into that same idea with the Rays, Taj Bradley. He was sent back down after a start where he had a 5.40 ERA, but I think he got like 8 Ks over 5-point-something innings or 6 innings. Dude looked absolutely spectacular, throwing like 55 strikes on 70-something pitches. I mean, it was just, it's one of those things where I expect to see the dude back up in the majors at some point as their top prospect, regardless of the fact that Eflin's coming back a little earlier than expected. I think you should keep your eye on him just because of that strike ratio and K rate alone. Mitch Keller, we're going to bring him up again. Rob, this is somebody you told me about. I saw him start against the Red Sox. He did absolutely fantastic. Is it last call on him?
Yeah, again, let's get rid of this bad team bias here. I mean, I get it. Maybe he doesn't collect all the wins, but the quality starts are going to be there if that is a category in your league. He is looking like the dominant pitcher they thought he was going to be. It took a little while. For starting pitchers, it tends to take a while. In Mitch Keller's case, I think this is coming into that ace stardom we've been waiting for. Though for fantasy purposes, again, the wins might not be there, but the overall ERA, whip, strikeout rate are going to benefit you through the roof. Pick up Mitch Keller now before it is way too late.
Edward Cabrera. Tell us about him on Miami.
Yeah, I want to kind of package Edward Cabrera and Jared Kelenic up. These are the 2 dudes that we both can speak on. If they have been dropped, snag them now before it is too late. Edward Cabrera looks like he's starting to get an extended look now with Avisail Garcia being injured. So sometimes that's all it takes is a guy to get the playing time. And as for Jared Kelenic, as I was just bringing up, he is now not just getting the playing time, he's starting to hit the home runs. Ryan, what are you liking at Jared Kelenic being the owner of him in the Sandlot?
It's insane because he was almost not rostered at all. It almost seemed like a wasted draft pick to a lot of people at the beginning of the season. Now up 21% last week, rising today, 65.5% rostered in Yahoo, and I expect that to rise over the next coming days. A home run in each of his last 3 games, hits in each of his last 7 games. 3 of those were multi-hit games. It looks like he's on fire. He's got a couple of stolen bases on the season. Kelenic's looking like he's finally coming into his own and could be a league winner. I think if you drop him, get him back. If he's still sitting there on the waiver wire, you need him now, because the rest of the season, whether or not he keeps this up, you have to see if it's possible, once again being a top prospect like he was. And that kind of goes hand in hand with Esteury Ruiz, who is one of the fastest players in the game right now, and went 3 for 4 today. So he dramatically rose his average. And might I remind everybody, it doesn't matter what you feel about his power or the team he's on, he's leading off. If he's leading off, you got to have that guy in your lineup at some point if you know he's going to be a quality player with speed. This guy could stabilize. We see a lot of stabilization, especially of the K to walk ratio during April, so give yourself some patience with him, especially in keeper leagues. He could be a speed threat for you. Moving on is also going to be Kris Bubic on the Royals. Now, this is somebody, Rob, you told me to go ahead and kind of grab while I could. I like what I'm seeing so far. It's not easy to whiff 9 and 6 innings with a 0 ERA and a .33 whip. The guy looks nasty, 23% rostered, up 22% from last week. That means that you have 0 chance of getting this guy in the next 2 weeks if he has another good start. You need to go get him on your watch list now, and I'll let you take Brad Keller, who's also on the Royals as a starting pitcher in their rotation.
Yeah, before I even start this, Bubic is the guy I like better than Keller, simply because of what you had said, is that strikeout rate. But what now interests me in Brad Keller is the fact that, albeit a small sample size, 17 innings pitched, 16 strikeouts, that's on par with what I like to see, at least a strikeout per inning. In just last season, 139 2/3 innings, he only had 102 Ks. Has something clicked with Brad Keller? Maybe. Who knows? We'll see, because something clearly has clicked with Bubic, and they could both go hand in hand. These are 2 top prospects Kansas City has had in the minors, for some time now. So it's very interesting to see them not just coming into this season in Kansas City's lineup. It's also very interesting that they're both potentially breaking out at the exact same time.
Andrew Chafin on Arizona, a relief pitcher.
Yeah, I mean, their bullpen has been a complete mess. Chafin essentially has just stepped up to the game and has looked really, really good early on when everybody else has looked really, really bad. And again, as I said earlier on in this podcast and podcast before, I believe Arizona is going to be a sneaky team. If Andrew Chafin's sitting there, I believe, again, in Yahoo, I believe it's under 60%. This could be the closer with potential 40 save holds, however your league differentiates the two, if not together. I think Andrew Chafin could be like a top 15 kind of relief pitcher come end of season.
Now on the Braves, your Braves, Mike Soroka, the last guy we're going to talk about on this podcast, 20% rostered, up 3% of last week. A lot of this has to do with the fact that he is recovering from Tommy John surgery. What do you make of this?
Well, his last AAA outing, 69 pitches, 4 innings pitched, 1 earned run, 5 Ks. Can't ask much more from the guy besides the fact that you need to stop getting injured. Of course, that is out of his control, but that has been his problem for the last 3 years. The thing is, last time he was a Braves pitcher, he was Max Fried. He was Spencer Strider. He was that guy. So, I mean, shoot, if Michael Soroka can come back and do his thing as he had showed that he could just a few years ago, I mean, the Braves pitching staff is going to be top-notch from top to bottom.
That being said, we're going to go ahead and conclude this episode. Next episode, we're going to be talking a little bit about Rob's idea on some strategies for maybe dropping your relievers altogether, and the old power hitters versus today. What makes things so different for the highest strikeout rate hitters of all time versus what we're seeing with today's shift and other buddy ball aspects of the game that may not have existed when we had the big money players like Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa in the past. I'm going to be at the game for the Angels versus Red Sox tonight at 7:10 p.m. at Fenway Park. I'll be taking a few videos of that for our shorts feed. And once again, this is Fantasy R&R with Rob and Ryan. Subscribe, and we'll see you next time.